live look at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, and you may be asking, why are people on bicycles outside the home of the Kansas City Chiefs before the light of day? What is the annual Coast to Coast for Cancer race, and the next leg kicks off in just 1 hour right here in Kansas City. Well, good morning. It is Friday, September 23rd. I'm Alan Van Zandt, coming to you live from GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. And behind me, we've got members called the team, the Gateway to a Cure. This team of cyclists making their way, there are 9 of them, making their way across the United States to raise money for cancer research. There's more than 100 employees with the pharmaceutical company Bristol Myers Squibb who are riding a total combined 3,000 miles across the United States. And the first leg of the journey started on the West Coast. It started in Oregon in a town called Cannon Beach, and it all comes to an end outside New York City. So they are only halfway on their long trip across the country. Now, we've got some video that we shot just a short time ago this morning. You can see members of the media talking to organizers here, and also, of course, Dr. Roy Jensen, the Vice Chancellor and the Director of the Cancer Center. And he's going to join us now. Dr. Jensen, good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Thanks for waking up early with us this morning. We don't have quite as big of a day as some of the bike riders do, but it is exciting here this morning.
Absolutely. It's a tremendous ride that they're doing, and it's great fun.
Can you tell us how this national ride has benefited our cancer center?
You know, we've had a number of investigators funded by the V Foundation over the years, and it's provided critically important pilot funds to really launch their careers and to do some very important projects that have turned out to have a critical role for our cancer center.
Now, we have this NCI comprehensive status. What does it mean for patients when receiving these research dollars?
Well, research equals hope for cancer patients, and we're still in a situation where we don't have an answer for 3 out of 10 patients that come to our doors, because the 5-year survival rate for cancer now is still under 70%. So we need cures, and we need answers for these folks, and research is the only way we're going to get there.
How have these research dollars been used over the past?
So they funded a number of projects. One project focused on using so-called natural killer cells as a new way to treat cancer. And another project really identified a critically important signaling pathway in leukemic stem cells. And we're trying to exploit that knowledge to develop new treatments for that disease.
We have heard you talking about the CAR T therapies and other cancer therapies. What is it that excites you so much about this CAR T?
Well, CAR T therapy is basically one of the ways we're utilizing the immune system to fight cancer. And the immune system is extraordinarily powerful and enables us to really battle cancer in kind of a multi-dimensional fashion. And it's proven to be extraordinarily effective against a number of blood cancers, and we're hoping to move that technology towards solid tumors as well.
Well, thank you for getting up early with us this morning and joining us here at GEHA Field here at Arrowhead Stadium. It's an exciting morning for sure. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank
we will
you.
check in with you in the 8 o'clock hour.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Well, we continue our morning now here at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. And as we showed you at the top of the show, dozens of bikers are here outside the stadium to take part in this coast-to-coast ride. One of them is Chris Cowley. We'll join Chris here in just a minute. Chris, we will toss now to, let's hear more about this morning's ride.
My name is Christy Williams. I am a wife, a mother, a BMS employee, and I am a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with colon cancer in June of 2019. What we thought was a small tumor caught early turned out to not be the case. It metastasized, spreading to my liver, putting me in stage 4 with a 5% survival rate. I underwent 2 major surgeries and 12 rounds of chemo. and responded very quickly to therapy. I have since had 5 consecutive clean scans. That's what makes this ride so personal for me.
Being fortunate enough to not have been touched by cancer, I feel an obligation to do everything I can to support those who have cancer. My name is Scott Doty. We live in Tucson, Arizona, and I've been with BMS about 5 years. We have 5 kids, my wife and I, and we've been married for 28 years. When I registered for the Ironman event, the first thing I did was discuss it with my family. The Ironman is frankly a very selfish event, and the Coast to Coast for Cancer is a pure team event. It's a great way to be a part of something way bigger than yourself.
A part of the reason I'm participating in Coast to Coast for Cancer is to show other cancer patients who are going through treatment now that you can get through it.
I was fortunate enough to participate in 2015, and I tell you, it literally changed my view of my company.
It's interesting how people come into your lives. Scott is a perfect example of that. Our paths probably would never have crossed if it weren't for Coast to Coast. COVID-19 has made training a little interesting. We weren't able to get together as a team this spring, but on the flip side, traffic is quieter.
When I met Christy, it was just an amazing thing to see her and to talk to her, and she's such an inspiration, and what she went through fighting cancer is completely different, but then much the same as what you do when you enter into a endurance event. The biggest difference is I was able to choose my battle, and Christy did not have that luxury.
Training for an endurance event is very similar to the cancer journey. You just have to power on day by day and mile by mile, and that's something that Scott's experienced and something that we share.
I would say Christy has inspired me like I didn't know was possible. I think I can be stronger. I think I can grow from Christy's story. I think we all can.
The instant you receive that diagnosis, your life changes immediately. You appreciate every moment. You're grateful for every memory that you have. You're grateful for your support system and your family, and you just view everything in life completely different.
There are going to be times when you feel like you can't go on, or you need to stop, or you want to quit. When you come to those points where you're not sure you can do something, and then you accomplish it, that's when life truly starts.
When you cross that finish line, whether it's ringing the bell or finishing your 3 days with Coast to Coast, that feeling of achievement and realizing that you did it, there's nothing better in the world. This ride will lead to more breakthroughs in cancer research. It represents more than just myself, more than just BMS, but patients all over the world.
We're all in this together.
We're better together.
Well, quite the story indeed. We continue this morning from GEHA Field outside Arrowhead Stadium here as the Coast to Coast ride getting ready to continue this morning. And as we showed you at the top of the hour, dozens of bikers are getting ready to head off from here on their trip east, starting from Oregon. They've made it about halfway. They're going all the way to New York City. And one of those riders, Chris Talley, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are you ready to go today?
I'm ready. It's early, it's a little chilly, but I think I'm ready to go.
Tell you what, the rain has held off so far. When we started the week, we were in the 90s, almost up to 100 degrees, and now we're about half that. What's it like riding in different conditions?
Yeah, so I'm from Texas, and it's been a really hot summer. So just like the heat that you've been having, that's what I'm used to. That's what I've been training in. So to come here and to have a little bit of a break from the heat has been such a welcome. It's been really nice.
So this is going to be easy today, isn't it?
It'll be a piece of cake.
Sure. Now, where are you going today? How far is your your leg?
Yeah, so we started yesterday. My group started yesterday. As you said, we're going about 3,000 miles across the country. There's 126 of us that work for Bristol Myers Squibb, and we're doing this with the V Foundation to raise money for cancer research. You can go to cancerbikeride.org to get more information about donating, and that's why we're doing it. We're doing it for the patients. But to your question, we started in Topeka, Kansas yesterday. We did about 80 miles. Lovely weather, but much hillier here than I anticipated.
Surprise.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And then we start today and we head to Columbia. So we'll be going to Columbia today, and we're hoping the rain holds off, but really the cool temperatures have been delightful.
Tell you what, we've been really lucky so far. Just a few light sprinkles earlier, but it's held off for now. So you said you were training down in Texas. How do you train for something like this?
Yeah, so I mean, there are different drills and different things we do, but the reality of it is you ride a bike a lot. You ride a bike a whole lot. So 3 or 4 days during the week, and then 2 long rides on, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. Had to apologize to my family. Sorry, I'm going to be on the bike all day again today. But you ride and you ride and you ride, and you get more comfortable with it. You feel like there is no way you're going to be able to do it, and then it turns out you end up doing it. So you just you think about what the patients go through and the different treatments that they're going through, and that's what gets you up early. That's what gets you going. So that's how you do it.
So as you've gotten ready for this, what advice have you been given from other riders?
A lot. There's so much that goes into it. I had never really ridden a road bike like this before. You learn the terminology, you learn the different training techniques. The main thing is just keep pedaling and be comfortable being uncomfortable.
So what is your message about cancer through this story?
Yeah, so the message is, things are getting better. Treatments are getting better, and they get better through things like this, where we raise money for cancer research. As I mentioned, we're doing this with the V Foundation. The nice thing about the V Foundation is 100% of the money that we raise goes to cancer research. No admin fees. They're not paying me anything to do this, believe it or not. But all of that money goes to cancer research, and then cancerbikeride.org is where you can donate. And then Bristol Myers Squibb is matching up to $500,000 of the donations.
Well, you are a dedicated bike rider and a dedicated supporter of cancer research. So you haven't spent much time here in Kansas City. Did you get any barbecue or anything last night?
At the hotel, we had some Kansas City barbecue, and it was pretty good. And then after this ride is over, my wife and I are going to come back to Kansas City and spend a little time here, so I hope to see a little bit more of the city.
Well, looking forward to that. Now, Chris Cowley, you have to get ready for your ride this morning. Good luck on your trip to Columbia today. And I think we have another visitor here with us today.
Yeah, look at this guy.
Do you know this guy?
Thank you. Yeah, we've done a couple photo shoots this morning. So
okay.
we're pals now.
Now, you are from Texas, so does that mean you're a Cowboys kind of guy?
Come on. Yes, of course, I'm a Cowboys fan, but hey, Mahomes played Texas Tech. Got a spot in my heart.
There you go. All right. Well, Chris Cowley, get ready for your ride. We'll hear from more of you later on.
Thank you.
Who's this guy here? Here, we'll give the microphone here. I don't think he needs a microphone. He talks with his hands, with his feet, and he moves all over the place. Of course, it is the one and only Casey Wolf. How you doing here? You woke up early today. Thank you for coming out. You're up this time. You're up probably 24 hours a day rooting for the Chiefs. All right. Well, tell you what, you are out this morning here supporting this coast-to-coast ride. And do you have any words of support, words of encouragement for these riders about to continue their 3,000-mile trip across the country? What do you say? You got? I think that's good. Tell you what, you don't ride a bicycle. You've got kind of your own little vehicle that you get around with. That'd be a little easier to get to New York City with, wouldn't it? So your thoughts on these riders as they are headed out? A little crazy, huh? Tell you what, you think you'd pedal along with them? No. Little wide in the backside, huh? Well, the Chiefs themselves have a game coming up on Sunday. They play Indianapolis. They are 2-0. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the rest of the gang. How are they going to do? Oh, that was kind of a silly question. Us reporters ask silly questions sometimes, don't we? But they are 2-0. They're going to be 3-0 after this weekend. Then they come back home and they'll play more. And are we looking at Super Bowl? You'd kind of, Chiefs, you'd kind of like a trip to the Super Bowl again, wouldn't you? I hear you. All right. So we are here again this morning. You're here this morning. I'm here this morning. It is the Coast to Coast ride for cancer research. Casey Wolf, my good buddy here. Thank you for coming out today. Looking forward to it. And yes. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Casey Wolf. Go Chiefs. We continue here at GHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium for this Coast to Coast ride, the next leg of this trip as they continue these riders from Oregon through our area all the way to New York. Today's leg takes them to Columbia, and we are looking forward to the next part of our journey here. Come on in.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for being a part of this morning. What's your thoughts on this ride?
I think this ride is so incredible. These riders are training for nearly 5 months to bike from the Oregon coast to the New Jersey shore. And each one of them has been touched by cancer in some way. And it's really just motivating and so impactful just to be a small part of it.
And you are with Bristol Myers Squibb.
I work with them. Bristol Myers.
And please introduce yourself too. I'm sorry.
I'm Jen Eisenberg, and I work with Bristol Myers Squibb to help raise awareness about this amazing, amazing ride.
And so are you traveling with them across, or are you just kind of...
I have come to help support with this event, but we're all behind the scenes helping to raise awareness for the ride.
Can you talk about the coordination behind something like this? I mean, this isn't just something where you hop on your bike and ride. There has to be a lot of coordination in getting this all put together.
Yes, there are so many people at Bristol Myers Squibb that are working behind the scenes with the logistics, everything from captains and quad squad members to help cheer and motivate these riders to all the logistics to make sure the route, is safe for our riders to get from coast to coast. And the behind the scenes and the communication standpoint, we're just trying to make sure we get the word out.
And your Bristol Myers Squibb being involved in this, Chris in his ride talking to past riders. How has this experience kind of evolved over the years?
Yes, so it started in 2014. A group of oncology employees at Bristol Myers Squibb just wanted to do a little bit more, give back to cancer, and it's evolved year over year. This is the 9th year of the U.S. Coast to Coast for Cancer ride, and it's even evolved in other countries. There's one in Europe and Japan. And for the first year, there's continent to continent for cancer in Latin America because...
Tell you what, we're going to interrupt you right now here because we've got some riders coming in here.
Yes, we do.
They are getting ready for their trip. Let's see if we can get the camera over there. These are some of the riders who are participating in the next leg of the Coast to Coast bike race. For cancer research, here they come this morning. They have woken up early, just like the rest of us. They've got a busier day than the rest of us ahead, I think.
They do.
I admire them for everything that they are doing. And like we said, the weather holding out today. And boy, I think they are probably a little happier that we've cooled off compared to where we were Tuesday and Wednesday when we were near 100 degrees here in Kansas City.
I hear it's perfect biking weather today. As long as the rain holds off, I think it's going to be a really nice ride.
Are you a bike rider at all?
I'm definitely a novice bike rider. I aspire to be like these riders. I have a Peloton, so I'll get there one day.
Well, you're at least a couple steps ahead of me on that. But this is exciting as they come by here. I think they've got a couple more activities planned before they actually head off this morning, and we're looking forward to that. So, as you were saying before they came in, that this started in 2014, I believe.
It did. It started in 2014. This is the 9th year of the U.S. Coast to Coast for Cancer ride. It's evolved to now more than 126 riders raising money and awareness, and all proceeds, 100% of the proceeds will go to the V Foundation for cancer research.
Sports fans have heard about the V Foundation and what it has done over the years and all the attention it has been given. It kind of just grew organically itself, but has turned into such a wonderful organization, and how rides like this support it as well.
Yes, and it's incredible, and Bristol Myers Squibb is just so dedicated to giving their employees this opportunity to ride.
So let's talk about the schedule today. They woke up early. They put their gear on. They came out. I'm sure they had some carbs to get going for the day and had their breakfast. They're coming out here. They'll soon be departing, heading to Columbia today. And how many days does this whole trip go?
So it's a 27-day trip. These riders are riding. They started yesterday, their first day in Topeka. They're going to ride up to 80 miles a day for 3 days, and their final into St. Louis. But each group of riders, there's 9 teams, each will be riding nearly 225 miles. It's really just incredible.
They each take their chunks. And so are there any days off during this trip? It's just continuous?
It's continuous. A new team of riders for each 3-day segment, but it's continuous until they bike into Long Branch, New Jersey on October 3rd. So it's coming up very quickly.
That will be a huge celebration when they all get there. And so will some of these other teammates who have been a part of this trip, will they get to New York as well for the celebration and the finish?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, almost all the riders are coming into New Jersey. They're going to celebrate by running into the Atlantic Ocean just to celebrate their achievements. It's going to be a really incredible day of just celebration.
Well, looking forward to this, Jen. Thank you so much for being here this morning with us all as we celebrate these riders as they head off continuing their journey. Thanks so much.
For having
I'll
me.
take this for you. Hi, come on in.
Hi.
You are suited up looking like you're ready to ride.
Yeah, I did ride actually. I was the first leg. So I rode from the coast of Oregon all the way to Bend, Oregon.
Can you tell us your name?
Yeah, so I'm Heather Acker, and just so happy to volunteer and do this ride.
Heather, where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
You are from New Jersey,
Yes.
and so you flew out there for the first part of the
Yes,
ride.
yep.
Tell us about your ride.
Oh, it was incredible. So we started at the beautiful coast of Oregon, and at first, the first 2 days weren't that hard. It was kind of flat, some elevation, and the third day we had to cross Mount Mackenzie. And honestly, I did feel like giving up. It was a 25-mile uphill climb, but we just remember what we're doing it for. It's about patience, and everyone kept reminding each other, and we have, names on our backs.
You bet.
So I was looking at the names of the people in front of me and realizing, no matter how hard this is, it pales into comparison what cancer patients face. So we just kept pedaling.
What do you do in your normal life when you're not riding bicycles across the country?
I work in communications, so
Okay.
I actually work on this ride year after year, and I finally, after 8 years, said, you know what, I want to do something more. So that's what I do year-round, is I really work on this ride and keep it going.
Were you a bike rider before this?
No, never.
Oh my goodness, so you started from scratch.
Yeah, I started from scratch, and it's scary. You have to click into the bike pedals, and we start in the grass. So if you fall over, you're in the grass. But, every weekend you work up 10 miles, 25 miles. I remember being so proud, but now we're up to 75 miles a day.
That's amazing. So really, if you can do it, anyone can do it,
Right, exactly. Anyone can do it.
So let's
Yeah.
tie it back again. You said you've got names on your back.
Yes.
What is it about, what is your connection to cancer?
Well, 2 things. So when I grew up, my best friend, since 4 years old, I remember she never had a mother around. And at 4 years old, I didn't know to ask. I just kept thinking she'd appear. And I come to find out that her mother was pregnant with her and found out she had cancer. She refused treatment, and she died when my friend was 2. So I just went through all the milestones of life with her and realized how unfair it was. So I'm writing for her. Her name is Dolores. And then also my Aunt June, who got ovarian cancer at 48, and she died too young. She left behind 2 young kids. So just hoping that future generations don't have to ever get the diagnosis, but also research will lead to cures for people now who are getting that diagnosis today.
Well, I think we all know that cancer affects every family in some way, whether it's themselves or their family members, their loved ones, their friends. And here you are out here now. This is a celebration.
It is a celebration. It is. I mean, right now there's a lot of joy, but when things get tough on the road, that's when we really just remember why we're riding, and that gets us through the hardest miles. So the riders today are going to face rain and wind, and it's kind of chilly, but I know they'll get through it, and they're doing it for patience. That's why we ride.
Well, we were talking about 100 degrees here in Kansas City not just a couple days ago. How awful would have that been for them? What was the weather like for you going through the mountains and everything?
It was chilly. It would start out in the 40s, and then by the end of the day when we were inland on Oregon, it was 98. So it was a 50-degree fluctuation. So it got a little hot out there.
I can't imagine that experience. And again, just a few years ago, you were not a bicycle
No,
rider.
not at all. Yeah, It took about 5 months of training, so I would say it just kept building. So in August, I really didn't do anything on the weekends except ride a bike, but it was fine. It kind of built us up.
We heard from Chris a little bit ago, who is an experienced bike rider for many years, and asked him what advice he would give. What advice would you give to other people who would think about maybe doing this in the future, something like this?
Just, find a really good training plan and just stick to it. So no matter what, if it's raining outside, if you don't feel like it, don't even think about it. Just have your bike gear laid out in the morning and go as early as you can, because when you go early in the summer, the sun's not pounding. By the time it's 12 o'clock noon, the sun is right overhead. So I found it was best to train early.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for your support of this exciting, supportive ride for everyone.
Thank you for being here today.
We're so glad. Thank you very much. And again, we are here at GEHA Field outside Arrowhead Stadium for the Coast to Coast ride. These riders traveling from Oregon in pieces all the way across to New York, and this is to support cancer research. And I see some bicycle riders behind me getting ready to go. I think we've got a little bit of activity here. Dr. Jensen would like to speak to them here in just a minute, but we have another speaker ahead of them. So let's go for a presentation here real quick.
We are incredibly grateful for your time and your energy and being here today as we start the second day of this incredible and just awesome journey. And we thank the Chiefs and Arrowhead Stadium. Yes, of course, go Chiefs, because without you, we would not have this event. It's just the energy is contagious here, and I'm so excited. You make me want to get on a bike ride. And so I would love to introduce also Dr. Jensen. He is the head of the University of Kansas Cancer Center, an incredible organization that is conducting research every day that is saving patients' lives. So he has been here, I believe someone told me 7 years now. So he's kind of old hat at this. I'd like to introduce him to talk a little bit more about exactly what you guys are actually doing that is so important.
Well, thank you so much. And those of us at the University of Kansas Cancer Center deeply appreciate your dedication to raising funds for cancer research. It is absolutely critical for a number of our investigators who have been funded through the V Foundation and have worked on leukemic stem cells. They've worked on CAR-T, new approaches to CAR-T therapy, and that research was made possible by the efforts of people like you who have dedicated, so much time to raising money. And we're very appreciative, and good luck on your ride today. I hope the rain will hold off, and I hope you enjoyed the barbecue last night. All right. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jensen. These riders all inspirational to all of us for what they are doing to support cancer research. We're just a short time away for them to continue their next leg of this coast-to-coast ride for cancer. And the team here, we should talk about them a little bit. They are the Gateway to a Cure. They are one of 9 teams that is participating in this ride, more than 100 riders in all that's making this trip. Now, the proceeds from Coast to Coast for Cancer, they benefit the V Foundation. We heard a little bit of them just a few moments ago. Katie Sweet is the senior director. And are we going to speak to her now?
Yep.
Oh, whoa. We're going to bring in Chris once again. We're going to bring Chris one more time here. How are you doing?
Hey, we're getting ready to go.
I see a few raindrops on your shoulder here.
You said it was going to hold off.
Well, I'm not a weatherman. That was a previous life. That was a previous life. And so now I'm here supporting you guys. This is, again, a pretty cool deal. deal that you are doing here. We talked with Katie a little bit ago. Do you have someone in your life that you're thinking about as you are riding today?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, there's 126 of us that are doing this, going coast to coast. We all have a story. We all have somebody that we're riding for. I, in particular, am riding for my dad. He is a cancer survivor, and then he's going through some cancer treatment right now.
So let's talk about your team. Gateway to tell us about them.
Yeah, they're standing right over here watching us right now. But this is the most amazing group of people, the most dedicated riders. I mean, most of us had never done this before or done anything like this, and it has been 5 months of learning how to ride a road bike and learning the gears and spending all the time on the seats and all of that stuff. They put in tons and tons of time to get ready for this ride, and yesterday this group absolutely killed it on the first leg, and we're going to be riding in the rain today, so we'll see how that goes.
So you came from Topeka yesterday to today, to here today. That was the easy part of the trip, it sounds like.
The weather was nice, and it was, like I said earlier, it's hillier than you would think. I think of Topeka as being flat, but we had some hills, but this group was super strong and prevailed.
And so we hear the rain coming down a little bit more. How will that affect your ride, other than you all getting a little bit wet?
Yeah, well, we'll all be wet and look like drowned puppies at the end of this, but it'll probably slow things down a little bit. We've got to make safety first, and so we'll be taking it slow. We'll be riding in the rain, but again, when you're riding for patients and you know what these patients go through with all their different cancer treatments, you suck it up and you get the job done.
So you have it pretty easy compared to what they're going through.
It's no comparison.
So what are your thoughts here as you get ready for this day two? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, so really you're thinking about what you got to do next, right? So we've got to get started. We'll work our way out of the city. We'll get into probably some open roads, and then it's just pedal.
Now, when I was young, I swam and back and forth, and you're staring at the bottom of the pool, and you just swim, and you pedal. How do you keep your mind active during that time? I used to count laps and everything, but what do you think about as you're actually pedaling this whole time?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, you're looking at one person right in front of you, and you just put your mind where it needs to be. Sometimes you're sometimes it's a deep thought where you're thinking about the patients and you're doing everything right. Sometimes you're thinking about what you're going to eat when you get to the finish line. You never know. You just keep your mind active. You got to be very careful. There are drivers on the road, and a lot of accidents happen right at the end when you think like you're close to the finish line. So you got to stay sharp the whole time.
Safety first, like you said. Now, I asked Katie what she does in her regular life. What do you do in your regular life when you're not riding a bicycle?
Well, I work for Bristol-Myers Squibb, and I manage a sales team, and we cover northern Texas and then Oklahoma. And so I do that just like all these folks. We work for Bristol-Myers Squibb, and then, I've got a family, and I spend time with the family and do all the same stuff that everybody does.
Well, Bristol-Myers Squibb so much behind this race, and talk about the company support that you're getting in taking time off to do this.
Yeah, it is the most amazing thing that I've ever been part of with any company that I've ever worked for. The bikes show up at our house. The training programs are delivered to us. We work with the most awesome coaching team, and they give you all the prep work. They walk you through it step by step that you can literally go from sitting on the couch to riding 80 miles a day in a 5-month period. It's amazing that they can do that, and it's amazing the time that the company gives us, to do all the training and to get ready for it.
So you guys are getting ready to travel halfway across the state of Missouri today. Now, when I wake up, I have trouble just bending over and putting my socks on. So how do you get your body physically ready for something like this today?
Yeah, well, I mean, today I think we're actually going to do a little yoga before we get started, so that's going to be really exciting. But, everyone's got some type of little different routine or what they eat in the morning to get up and going. Coffee is a huge help, getting that caffeine kick. That helps us all probably on a daily basis, so that's one of the things.
So do you carb it up? We hear that the athletes, they need their carbs to get going in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, I carbed up so much yesterday that I think I out-ate whatever calories I burned off on the ride.
So how does the barbecue plug into your diet for riding halfway across the state?
Well, you got to get the protein too, right? You got to get loaded up on that protein.
All right. Well, like you said, we're getting ready for some yoga, it sounds like. I think Casey Wolf was going to help us out with that. But in the meantime, while you get all ready for that, get ready to do the crouching dog and all the rest of that stuff, let's go to our studios here. We've got Jess Lovell there in the nice, warm dry studio. Luckily, we've got this canopy here. But Jess, how you doing this morning?
I'm really good. I know you've been doing good. I know playing kind of the weather guy role, and I know people are crediting you kind of keeping that rain away. So you're doing such a fantastic job out there and talking to all these folks.
Well, I'll tell you what, not so good anymore because the rain is coming down pretty moderately now. I'm no Gary Lesak or anyone else from any of the weather stations here, but the rain is, these guys are going to have a chore ahead of them today.
Well, and I wonder if what's worse, the 100-degree weather we saw earlier this week or what they're going to deal with now. I think I might like the sprinkles riding hundreds of miles across country.
Well, as I was talking to some of them earlier, the 100-degree riding a bicycle in 100-degree weather, miserable. The rain probably not much better, but at least from the body-wise, this has to be a little bit more comfortable for you.
Definitely cooler, absolutely. So yeah, that's a big help.
Well, Jess, let's toss her back to you in the studio here. What else do you got for us?
Well, so it was just watching you out there at Arrowhead. It's such a fantastic backdrop because just this past weekend I was out there for Treads and Threads. We raised, I think, a total of $2.3 million for cancer for our Proton Center. So I always say, the Chiefs games and all the excitement that's out there on Sundays, that's fantastic. But nothing better than watching folks like this gather to raise awareness, to raise funds for research, all to benefit those battling cancer. Just this last week, everyone out there, kind of that, party for a purpose. It's really nice to see you out there doing this with everybody today. And everybody seems to be so up. I know everybody's got their carbs. You and I need our coffee in the morning. So is everybody like in good spirits and ready to go?
Early and often the coffee for sure, and
Right.
like you mentioned, just being here at GEHA Field at Arrowhead and the support that we have from the Kansas City Chiefs and everyone here in being here this morning and supporting the race, the ride, and letting us be here today. Casey Wolf, I understand he's going to be leading some yoga here in a little bit, and are you going to help out with some yoga also?
We'll see. I don't know. I'm a little cold. I don't know if I could quite do the stretching.
I tell you, I haven't loosened up yet either. Please introduce yourself to us.
My name is Katie Sweet.
Yes.
Yes, I work for the V Foundation for Cancer Research, and we are the very lucky beneficiaries of this ride.
Well, I tell you what, I mentioned it a little bit ago, but the V Foundation has kind of grown organically over the years from where it began. And anyone who is associated with sports at all knows about the V Foundation.
Yes, absolutely. So our beginnings were Jim Valvano, the underdog of the 1983 National Championship, and of course ESPN. So we have a very wonderful history, a very rich history, and we have grown now to where we have awarded nearly $290 million for cancer research.
That is amazing. So tell us what the organization actually does with that money and how you spread it out.
Sure. So we fund cancer research, and to put it very simply, our goal is victory over cancer, and we believe that will happen through research. So we fund nationwide the best of the best. So we fund the most cutting-edge research for all types of cancer.
And, that's kind of why we are here this morning, that you are supportive of our cancer center at the University of Kansas Health Systems. And so with this ride, how are you traveling with the team? Are you just here? Or are you going to take a car and go to Columbia, or what are you going to do?
I'm very lucky. I will be on a plane. So I will have the fastest journey to the next stop. I'm going to Indianapolis next. So it is so much fun to see these teams and to see their energy and how just absolutely excited they are to do what they have, to finally get out here and do what they've trained to do.
Isn't it amazing just the support in supporting them, because I can't do it myself, and you're saying you probably can't.
Yeah, I probably can't do it.
Probably not, but just we're doing our part for them and the V Foundation. Just thank you for the part that you do with the foundation and in cancer research. And I got this guy here behind me, I think, kind of mocking me the whole way here.
I think that's a dance for cancer research.
I think so.
That's what that is.
Dance for Cancer Research. Of course, Casey Wolf out this morning as we are here at GEHA Field. Katie Sweet, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Thank you for your work with the V Foundation.
Thank you.
All right, Jess, back to you.
Hey, Alan. Okay, I love a good Casey Wolf sighting early in the morning, so that's fantastic. I can't wait to see you and him doing a little yoga later. We're about 22 minutes away from the riders taking off, so a very, very exciting time. Alan, I know you've been out there welcoming in and visiting with these riders. And I just want to find out from you, what are they sharing with you about why they do it? I know they all have personal stories. It's hard to find anyone anywhere who hasn't been touched by cancer in some way or another. So maybe what are some of the stories that you're hearing about why these folks are riding so far and so long?
Well, like you said, all of us have some association to cancer, whether it's ourselves or a loved one, whether it's a father, a mother, a grandfather, a grandmother, or a sister or brother. And as we've been talking to the riders here, you know, they didn't wake up one day and say, I'm just going to ride hundreds of miles to support cancer research. They've got a reason behind it, and they've got family members who've been touched by cancer, and which affects all of us. And just in hearing the stories, like you said, that they are very motivated in what they're doing in this right across the United States.
So Alan, what's going to happen? So here in about 20 minutes now, we're going to see everyone gather like at a starting point, and then we're just going to send them on their way. Where are they heading to? Where's the next leg end? Do we know that?
We do. That's right. They rolled in about 45 minutes ago. They parked their bikes, and they're talking with us now. And maybe they want to talk with us all morning long so they don't have to hop on and get out in the rain. Maybe they'd like us to drag this out as long as possible. But we are stalling. That's just stalling it out. But what they will be doing this morning, they'll hop on their bikes. They will head east, and they will be going to Columbia, Missouri, halfway across the state for their trip today. They came from Topeka yesterday to here, and then from here to Columbia. And these teams tag off. There's more than 100 riders in all, each of them taking a chunk of this trip all the way from Oregon to New York. And so we are dead set in the center of the United States now. We're about halfway across, and these teams, 230 miles in all is, cheers to you. My goodness. So Columbia, about 120-ish miles, 110 miles from here. Is that what you've got today, gang?
That's about-ish. Sounds good.
Piece of cake. Piece of cake. They made it from, again, Topeka to here yesterday, so a little more today, but the weather elements a little worse off than they were yesterday. I bet it was a nice ride yesterday. Beautiful day, cloud-covered, temperatures like about half of what they were just a couple days before when we were near 100. So we've got light rain today. We've got temperatures in the 50s. They'll be wet, but they'll stay cool.
Yeah, and that says something for sure. We are happy to be their pit stop. Give them some time to rest. We're happy to stall with them and learn more about their stories. I know you've been talking to the V Foundation and these employees from Bristol-Myers Squibb. Dr. Jensen, Roy Jensen, spoke earlier. He's the director of our cancer center. Alan, tell us a little bit about kind of just the message that Dr. Jensen, he is our researcher here. He takes very good care of those grant funds and makes sure that they stretch and they go to help find answers when it comes to finding cures for cancer. So tell us maybe what was his sentiments to these writers. I mean, it's all about them. We can't do it without them pushing through.
Well, that's exactly it. Words of support from Dr. Jensen, and the NCI designation for the Cancer Center being key in our participation along with this ride. And Dr. Jensen got here very early this morning. We see some of the video there of that designation, and a great time it was for the University of Kansas Health System Cancer Center. Dr. Jensen, why don't you come in now? Jess was just talking to me about some of the message that you had for these riders and what they are doing to support cancer research.
Yeah, well, it's really a tremendous sacrifice on their part to be doing this, and we're deeply appreciative of their raising funds for cancer researchers really all across the country, but also at the University of Kansas Cancer Center.
Well, let's talk about the advances in cancer research over the previous few years. I mean, my goodness, we've got the new Proton Center for treatment, and so that's the treatment side, but research in trying to get this darn cancer away for good.
Absolutely. So I think the Cancer Centers program has been a huge success. It's a little over 50 years old now, and for the since 1991, the cancer death rate has dropped about 2% a year, and that's resulted in the saving of well over 3 million lives. And so we are making progress. It's not as quick as what we all want, but it's slow and steady, and we're getting there.
When we talk research of so many different diseases out there that we look for a cure, and like you said, it's never as fast as we want it to be. Are there steps that we take to get there, or how does it work?
Well, absolutely. And over the course of this last grant period for us, the University of Kansas Cancer Centers has brought 5 KU invented new cancer therapeutics into the clinic, and that's what's going to take. We simply don't have the answers for about 30% of our patients, and we have got to figure out a path to treat them, and that's what research is the way to get there.
Well, as we see so many of these patients do get better, and what is it like for you as you see them improve their conditions and improve their quality of life?
Well, that's what it's really all about, and to be able to have our patients go on and live a full and complete life. That's the most gratifying thing for us. It's not about publications and awards and things like that. It's really about having our patients do well.
And that's kind of the key of what you do is seeing those patients and making them feel better and improve their quality of life, like we mentioned, and a tribute to you and the staff. Talk about your staff that you have there at the center.
Well, we have an incredibly dedicated group of physicians, nurses, and other allied health professionals that focus on the treatment of our cancer patients. And every day, and of course we've just been through the pandemic, and that was an incredibly difficult time to make sure that we were caring for our patients as much as we could during some incredibly difficult conditions, frankly.
Well, we are just moments away from the start of this next leg of this ride across the United States. Dr. Jensen, thank you for being with us. Casey Wolf is trying to loosen up the crew back here, and I tell you what, I think they'll need some of it today to get moving as they go to Columbia today on this next step of the race. I think we're going to get some yoga action here. Do you want to participate, Dr. Jensen?
I'm going to pass.
Leave it. We'll leave it to them. Here, I'll take this from you here. Let's just get out of the way. Casey Wolf, you've got a crouching dog, or crouching wolf form ready to go. Let me get out of the way. Let them do their thing and get warmed up.
You guys want to spread out?
Okay.
Everyone, just find a spot. It can be tight, but...
I don't mind. I'm an instructor, so yeah, I promise I won't mind. You guys are going to be able to do it. You get a little arm room, yeah, we need to warm you guys up.
So after the warm up, we're going to bring in Evan.
I don't mind standing.
Evan is the last one.
This little story. They need them. Right.
There you go.
What?
Is that good for everyone?
She says.
All right. Honor to be here. I appreciate it.
Can I say how great you are?
Everyone eat a little on your heart. Sorry, keep the body warm. Side to side. Let's have a little knee bend. All right. Step back. Let's run up the spine this way. Keep your hands together. Take an inhale. Just open.
All right, what we see now are some of the riders getting ready to go on their, they're loosening up, getting ready to hop on their bikes for their about 110-mile bike ride to Columbia today. part of this coast-to-coast ride, all to benefit cancer research, cooperation with the V Foundation, and some of the funding getting back to our cancer center at the University of Kansas Health System. They're loosening up. Little yoga in the rain this morning. The rain has picked up quite a bit over the past 45 minutes to an hour or so. As we got out here about between 6 and 6:30 or so, it was just, well, it was dark, of course, but it was overcast and no rain. But it is coming down, and that's what the bike riders will face this morning as they head west here in just about 10 minutes or so. Again, this team of riders from Topeka yesterday, staying the night here in Kansas City. They will be going to Columbia on this next leg of the trip. More than 100 riders in all.
Jesse, can we pass to you? Jess.
And then again, stand up tall, inhale, drop down.
Alan, can you hear me okay?
This time, go ahead and
I can hear you just fine, Jess. Hi there.
All right, I know you're doing, what is it, the downward wolf? The downward wolf with Peggy Welkner over at Turning Point this morning. A little yoga,
right.
getting these folks ready.
come on up.
Yes, they are. And Casey Wolf right along with the team. He's not going to hop on a bike, but he is here to support the riders as they get ready to go on their trip.
Hey, Alan, for folks who are just joining us, I just wanted to run the numbers for folks today. We're talking about the Coast to Coast for Cancer bike ride across the country, 3,000 miles. But just tell people again where they came from, what 243 miles, how they got here, and then where they're going to be taking off from in about 10 minutes. And we're gonna send them on their way. But just kind of, how did they get to this point?
Sure. Again, this is one of the 9 teams that is part of this coast-to-coast trip. The first team started in Oregon just a few days ago. They took their leg of the trip. They passed off to another team. This team started in Topeka yesterday. They traveled into Kansas City last night. They enjoyed some barbecue. They got some good rest overnight. And here they are this morning getting ready to go on the continuation of their trip. They will head to Columbia, where they will stay the night tonight. So in all, this group has a 243-mile bike ride over 2 days. How's that sound to you, Jess? Sound like a fun way to finish up the week?
I think so. Yeah, that would push me on through. You and I might have to, we might have to split that up between the two of us. Or we could ride one of those tandem bikes where you do all the work and I sit on the back.
You know it. Well, I don't know about that. I'll steer. I can do the steering part, okay. So I think we had the map up on the screen that shows this trip that this whole crew is making. And my goodness, going through the mountains to the west, they're in the plains now, but the crew said they were surprised by a lot of the hills that they had to navigate between Topeka and here. I think when they hear of Kansas, they think of being very flat, but those Flint Hills are in there as well.
Yep, they'll get you. Hey, Alan, so how do they train for this? That's what I want to know. Are they eating anything special to push through? Did they train? I think we were talking to one person or about another person yesterday who this was kind of their first time doing something like this. So are these experienced riders or are these novice?
Well, I think you have a whole range of riders in there. You've got those who are dedicated, who have been doing it for years and years and years. You've got those who have just gotten on the bicycle kick really in recent years. One of the riders we was talking to earlier said she'd done nothing like this just 4 or 5 years ago, and she started training. And what the training involved is hopping on the bike and pedaling and pedaling and pedaling and pedaling. And that's how you really get ready for something like this. And then you have a good diet. Obviously, it's not burgers and fries every night for sure. My diet would not really work for me getting on a bicycle and riding hundreds of miles. So you can see all of these athletes are in very good shape. They've got very strong thighs and legs for pedaling the bike. And except for Casey Wolf out there, who's kind of imitating his way through this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give them all a lot of credit for what they're doing today.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's such respect for these folks who their athletic ability is one thing, but just the fact that they're sharing their own experiences with people, with us, with the world as they go across the country, and they're being motivated by someone in their life who's been touched by cancer. You and I talked about this. It's just it's hard to find anyone. You can't stand in a room without finding someone who's been touched in some way or another. So it's remarkable. And I mentioned to you earlier, this past weekend we had the Treads and Threads event, raising a record amount of money, $2.3 million, than we have in the last 20 years. So people are, they're motivated to help find answers to cancer and to help patients and to help their loved ones. So the fact that now we're standing out at Arrowhead once again for a bunch of people who are coming together for this fantastic cause, raising money for research, it's so fantastic to see. And I see this team standing here with you, and I think this is just their final moments before we send them on their way, right?
Okay, big smiling faces, look here please.
Right, what they're doing, they're getting some final pictures taken of the crew here before they depart GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium here on their trip to Columbia. Everyone's smiling right now. We'll see how they are in a couple hours when they're all wet and in the rain and pedaling on their way across. So catch these smiles now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Good job, team.
I love it. Dr. Roy Jensen there, medical director of our Cancer Center. I'm looking at the time. Okay, it's 7:55. Do they know they have 5 whole minutes to rest?
They've got about 5 minutes to go before they'll head off. And I tell you what, Evan, are you around? Yes. Evan, there you are. Hi. Come on in. Now, you are a past participant of this race.
Yes.
Can you tell us what your experience was like?
It is the most incredible experience. I was fortunate enough to be a rider 2 times, and the work that we do for cancer research, raising money for the V Foundation, is incredible.
Well,
it's an amazing journey.
How do you keep your motivation going? I assume the V Foundation is a part of it, and your thoughts on how you and your life's been affected by cancer.
Yes, so I personally have had several friends affected by cancer, and the work that the V Foundation does, the work that Bristol Myers Squibb does, is incredible for patients. One of the unique things about this ride, as I heard you mention earlier, quads, and yes, the riders have amazing quads. We took that as a little play on words and created what we call the Quad Squad, and those are volunteers from Bristol Myers Squibb that get together and come out on the ride to motivate the riders, dress up in costumes, cheer them on, cowbells, pom-poms, costumes, to make what is challenging a little bit more tolerable. Nothing in comparison to what patients go through every day, but just something to make it more pleasurable for the riders as they're traveling across the country.
So you aren't suited up today. You're not riding. You said you've done this twice before, so you're now a coach.
Yes. So
how do you coach?
So actually, my role is not necessarily a coach, more helping to lead the core team in the execution of the ride. So I've had the opportunity to be a rider, have the opportunity to have been part of the team as a quad squad member and a captain, and now really here to help coordinate and make sure that this goes off without a hitch. It's a lot of miles, 3,000 miles across the country, over 130 riders, so just making sure that everything goes smoothly.
Talk about the different terrains that the riders go through. Of course, obviously to our west, the mountainous regions, now the plains, which is supposed to be flat, but the riders yesterday said they got surprised by some hills.
Yes, for sure, and I was a rider here in 2019, and I will say Kansas is not flat. The terrain is definitely, it changes across the country. They started in Cannon Beach, right out with a 14-mile climb. As you come across the Rockies, as you can imagine, 10,000 feet of elevation, ending at the Jersey Shore at sea level. So definitely an incredible experience and multitude of elevation, but they train hard. The training is intense, but they're prepared, as you can see, as they go out today.
You said you've ridden in this twice. race, did you ride right at the beginning of this, the creation of this race?
So this ride started in 2014. I had the honor of riding in 2015 from Boise, Idaho to Salt Lake City, and then again in 2019 from Kansas City to Indianapolis.
How has it changed over the years, other than the miles are still there?
The miles are there. We've gotten certainly more experience. We know the route. It's gotten bigger though. When we started back in 2014, it was about 60 riders. We've doubled that now, and we continue to look at ways to make the ride even better. And really, at the end of the day, if we can generate funds to support cancer research and elevate cancer treatment, that's what it's all about.
Well, in this case, bigger is better, certainly when it's for cancer research and the dollars going to that such an important cause. Thank you so much, and good luck with the team as you continue across the country.
Thank you for having us.
All right, thank you so much. Well, Jess, this has been a wonderful morning out here so far. Who cares about the rain? I can say that because I'm in the canopy here, and I'm not going to be riding across the state today. But it has been a fantastic morning, inspirational morning for talking to these riders and their stories of why they are riding for cancer research. And it has been super. I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of it this morning. But this is the Coast to Coast Cancer Ride. They're on their way to Columbia today as they continue this leg across the nation. And we've got some questions, I understand. We'll get to those in just a minute. If you have to leave us this morning, well, thanks for tuning in with us as we are here on the Morning Medical Update that starts right now.
And yes, thanks for sticking around with us today. Good morning. It is Friday, September 23rd. I'm Jessica Lovell, and Alan Van Zandt did a phenomenal job out there at Arrowhead Stadium, where we are live for today's annual Coast to Coast for Cancer bike ride. You are looking at one of the 9 cycling teams, yes, a little through the rain. They are all participating in a 3,000-mile relay ride across the United States to raise money for cancer research. The team out there today is called Gateway to a Cure. These are not professional bike riders. They are employees with the drug company Bristol Myers Squibb, who sponsor this annual fundraising event. The journey started on the coast of Oregon with Team Care Crusaders. It all came to an end it will come to an end outside of New York City with Team Spinspiration. And members of Gateway to a Cure have been warming up with yoga. A little help from Casey Wolf this morning. They're all stretched out. They're ready. They've been prepped. They've had their Kansas City barbecue, and now they are ready to hit the road. So I think, am I doing the honors? Am I get to count these folks down, guys? Are they? I see no bikes. Okay, so we're going to just hang tight. We're going to send them on their way here in just a moment, and we'll take that live as they go to take on to their bikes and get going across country. Okay, so joining us this morning, we are joined by Dr. Roy Jensen. He is Vice Chancellor and Director of the University of Kansas Cancer Center. He has been here since before dawn, nice and dark this morning. He does this every year. He's been out there with the V Foundation Senior Director, Katie Sweet, also Heather Aker, a rider who took part in the first leg of the race. So we're going to talk with all of them today, just to explain how all of these organizations come together to help cancer patients for riding coast to coast. Alan Van Zandt, as I mentioned, our reporter, has been out there covering this all morning. It's been a really fun and exciting morning, and there they are, I think, prepping, getting ready. And so we're going to send them on their way here in just a few moments. In the meantime, here in the studio, I've got Dr. Dana Hawkinson, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control, with our COVID-19 numbers. How are you today, by the way? It's Friday.
Good.
Are you happy it's Friday?
I'm glad it's Friday. I'm glad we are getting some rain. It's unfortunate for the people out there in the riders.
It is, but at least it's not 100 degrees like it was earlier this week, right?
Yeah.
I think some of them are happy to be in the rain.
Absolutely.
So they're getting their workout today. All right, so get your questions sent in to us through YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can email the Medical News Network. As always, you can find those links right there on your screen, or of course, post them in the chat below. We'll get to those here in just a moment. The Coast to Coast for Cancer ride, though, started in 2014 when a group of oncology employees for Bristol Myers Squibb wanted to do more to help cancer patients. It has since expanded to Europe, Japan, and this year Latin America. Now, since it started, riders have raised more than $12 million, and all of that money has gone to the V Foundation, which then in turn awards competitive grants for Cancer Research. Katie Sweet with the V Foundation is joining us this morning. Do we have Katie with us? Okay, we're actually going to start with Dr. Roy Jensen. He is the director of our Cancer Center. Good morning to all of you. Dr. Jensen, how are you? You staying dry out there?
We're staying dry thanks to the Kansas City Chiefs in the tent.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about, well, are we talking with Katie? Is this Katie with us today?
Yes,
right.
I'm Katie.
Okay, we're going to kind of talk with both of you a little bit, but Dr. Jensen, I want to ask you, the Cancer Center's received grants from the V Foundation many years, 2015, 2017, 2018, and even in 2020. Tell us about some of the research that was done with those funds.
Sure. So we've had Mary Markevich, who has looked at natural killer cells as a potential new type of CAR T therapy. We've had John Perry, who's really discovered a critically important signaling pathway in leukemic stem cells. And both of those research projects were, the funding from V Foundation was critical for those efforts.
Dr. Jensen, Katie, I'm going to ask you a question, but question for Dr. Jensen. What is it like, the grant writing process, when you're presenting this and you're gathering this information? This is quite a stringent process. Kind of tell us a little bit about it.
So, the cancer researchers file these grants really according to the request for applications that's released by the V Foundation and other organizations. And so they follow their format and present the data that they've been working on to really justify the rationale for doing the research, and those grants are then reviewed by a national panel of experts that the V Foundation employs to really critically look at those grants, and then assigns a score and ranks them. And so University of Kansas Cancer Center researchers are in competition with folks from really all over the country. And so when we're awarded a grant from the V Foundation, it's very meaningful because it's a tough competition, and that's how it should be. We should be funding the best research, and we're very proud to have been the recipients of multiple awards from them.
Absolutely, and you've done good work to make sure that those dollars go in the right spot. Are our writers about ready to take off, guys? Can somebody let me know? We'll count them down. If not, we'll talk with Katie.
Not
okay,
yet.
let's talk with Kate. Katie?
They're prepping for the rain, I think.
Okay, are they putting tablecloths? They're using tablecloths and they're getting...
I think so. They're getting creative.
They're very resourceful. I like it. Katie, tell us about the V Foundation. Tell us how it got its start.
Absolutely. So we were co-founded by Jim Valvano, who was the 1983 NCAA basketball champion, and his underdog, NC State Wolfpack. They were not supposed to win. They were not supposed to get anywhere near that championship, but they did. So he was diagnosed with cancer in 1993, and he took that same don't give up spirit that he just had just within him, and he partnered with ESPN, and he said, if I'm not going to survive my cancer, then I'm going to do something that's going to help other people survive their cancer. And that's what he did. And they founded the V Foundation in 1993, and we have awarded nearly $290 million across the country since then.
That speech by Coach Valvano, I think, will go down in history as one of the very, very best and most inspirational we've ever heard. It is one for the books, for sure. Katie, tell us why you only work with NCI designated centers. Why is it so important that these funds are placed in the right hands?
Because NCI centers are among the very best in the world, and we can't advance research if we don't fund the best research. So we need to solve the problems that cancer presents, and that's going to happen through research, and it's going to happen faster through the best research. So it matters to us that we are funding the most brilliant minds in the country.
All right, our writers are just a few minutes from taking off. They're getting a safety briefing, so we're going to let them get that important announcement. But I want to ask Dr. Jensen, big visible events like this are so important when it comes to keeping cancer research in the spotlight. Talk about that, Dr. Jensen, and just how this gives you hope.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, I just came back from a couple of days in Washington, D.C., where we're raising hope there and with Congress and other organizations to really highlight the fact that all of these advances that have been taking place over the last couple of decades are directly tied to the research that's funded by organizations like the V Foundation. And we're incredibly grateful for that. But without the donations coming in, they would not be able to fund this research, and we would not be able to be moving forward with a number of therapeutic advances like utilizing the immune system and targeted therapy and proton therapy, and all of these things are making a difference. And over the last 20 plus years, the cancer mortality rate's been dropping on average about 2% a year, and that's directly attributable to the advances that are taking place at NCI designated cancer centers.
So the numbers are going in the right direction, Dr. Jensen, and I know that makes you very, very happy. Katie, as we get ready to send these writers off this morning, just tell us, for folks who are just joining us or may not know, again, a little bit about the Coast to Coast for Cancer ride, maybe how it's evolved over the years.
Sure. So the Coast to Coast ride has been around for several years and has raised millions of dollars for cancer research. So I can tell you they have 9 teams of riders that literally go from the West Coast to the East Coast in a relay ride. And each set of riders rides about 250 miles, give or take. And that is over the mountains and through heat, through wind, through the cold rain that we have today. So they train and fundraise for about 5 or 6 months before the ride actually gets here. And I can tell you that this group collectively, all the teams have raised more than $900,000 this year alone. So they're doing an amazing job, not only just for themselves, just to be healthy and get out and do this, but also for patients who need that help.
What's just the mood out there? What's the camaraderie like for these folks? I mean, sitting back here, it's easy for me to say, yay, go get it. But they are on their way across the country, all together, rooting each other on, all in the spirit of cancer patients. And I know they're about ready to take off now, but what's going through their mind as we watch them?
They make people who don't ride bikes want to ride bikes. You see this group, and they're contagious. Their energy is contagious. It's incredible. I've seen other stops. This one's always the best. This one has the most energy, the most support, and it's so much fun to be a part of it and to know that it does something so good for people living with cancer.
All right, Katie, I have to put you on the spot. Have you ever done it before? Have you ridden?
No, I have not. They are only Bristol-Myers Squibb employees, so I may just have to get a job there so that I can do this one day.
And there you go. Okay, got you. But that's one thing that was so curious to me is just the training. I mean, are these people? You look at them and they look so professional, like they've been training for a while, and they have. You would have to train for something like this. We're talking legs and legs and miles, so it's fantastic. What is it personally, Dr. Jensen? You're always talking big words and lots of research, and you're so inundated in all of these things. But just personally, what does it mean to you to watch these folks stand up, sit down on their bike and go across country, and knowing that they're doing this for you, so that you can then in turn do it for folks with cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, every single one of these folks could just, sit down and write a check. But they have chosen, the path that is not the easiest. And I think, part of it for them is a personal journey, because every single one of them has a name on the back of their jersey, or multiple names that they're riding for, and so they're clearly doing this as a way to pay their respect and homage to those people that have been touched by cancer in their lives, and so it's that's pretty gratifying that they're willing to do that.
Absolutely. Katie Sweet and Dr. Roy Jensen, stand by with us. We're going to get a quick check on our COVID count this morning while we're waiting for those riders to take to the line,
Yeah.
Dr. Hawkinson.
Yeah.
So are you a bike rider?
No, it's too hard on my legs.
Is it?
As it burns too much.
That's what
like
I say
you
to
said.
her.
Yeah.
There's lots of burning. Yeah, it tends to do that, doesn't it? Lots of sweating, lots of physical activity.
That's right.
So let's get to our COVID count this morning,
Yeah.
and then I might have to interrupt you today, if you don't mind, if we see these riders ready to take off. But go for it.
Yeah, I'm easy to interrupt, so it's fine. 32 active infections in the hospital, 4 in the ICU, 2 in the ventilator, still 22 in that recovery period. I mean, again, we're still just kind of holding higher than we would like and would expect, given the national counted for cases and hospitalizations. But again, the majority of all these patients really are unvaccinated or not up to date with their vaccination and have other comorbid conditions.
So are we seeing an increase in hospitalizations overall?
I think there was a headline about Kansas seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very slight one, obviously. But again, I think we just have to continue to look at those trends, those 10-day, 14-day trends to really understand that.
All right, I'm going to ask you another couple questions. Guys, jump in when they're ready. They're assembling. They're assembling. Okay, hold your thought.
Yeah.
Let's see what these folks are going to do here. Am I still counting them down? They don't need me. I'm doing it? Okay, good. Okay. Okay, we're going to give him a moment. Casey Wolf is doing his thing there, as usual.
He's wild.
All right, are they ready? Yeah, he's okay. All right, you're gonna help me. Can you count backwards from 5? Okay, you're gonna do it. Okay, it's the Coast to Coast Race for Cancer bike ride as they head east, where they're going to end in New York City. Let's do it. Let's count these folks down. 5, 4, 3, 2, go.
2, 1, go.
Let's get you back for your position.
They're full of barbecue, Dr. Hawkinson. They had barbecue last night.
Wondering, that's going to be hard. I don't know how that happens. Barbecue the night before.
Okay. Hey, there's no better way to fuel up in Kansas City than get your belly.
I think the salt helps water retention. You need
There
the
you
water
go.
when
This
you're...
is the way we train. Eat lots of salty beef and barbecue, retain the water, and take off for New York City.
I'm just glad Casey Wolf had some rain gear on.
He did.
Nobody likes the smell of wet dog, so.
No, wet
good.
wolf. And he was doing yoga earlier, so he was doing the downward
right.
wolf. And so they were stretched out, ready to go. So we wish them the very, very best of luck, safe travels, and we will see them on the other end, all in the name of cancer research. So we thank all of those folks. I want to get back with Dr. Hawkinson real quick. Are we going to finish up our headlines? Okay, so I need to ask you about CDC, the new variant called BF7. What do we know about it? What's its impact?
Yeah, still, it's very, very early. We know that there is some increase in the amount of cases, but it's really hard to tell, how much is going to be truly different from the other variants. Probably not much at all. We know that there's some spike changes, obviously, and that's how really a lot of these variants get their designations. It's through differences in their genome, and especially the spike. So right now there's still not a lot of information out about it. Very, very small amount of cases compared to some of the other variants that are still out there.
All right, in the last day we received word more Moderna bivalent vaccines are being shipped. How soon might we see those in our area or here at our place?
Yeah, right now there's still no new update from us. We knew, we talked about this earlier in the week about how we knew there was a decrease and we haven't gotten any more. Right now there are no updates for the health system or our community at this point in time for Moderna, but we still do have a lot of Pfizer in stock, and again, we know you can mix and match these booster doses as well.
That's what you've been telling us. All right, you want to head back out to Arrowhead?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. If you're just joining us this morning, our cameras and our Alan Van Zandt are live out at Arrowhead Stadium celebrating the 2022 Coast to Coast Cancer Fundraising Ride. This is such a great event. They've been out there bright and early, and we appreciate you and all your great coverage, Alan. So, Alan, you were out there early. What'd I miss? I just saw them take off, but they were prepping, doing yoga, all sorts of good stuff.
They were, and they were watching the skies as much as anything. It was cloudy when they first got here this morning. The wind started picking up a little bit. The rain started coming down a little bit, and then it was time for them to head east. But we did get a little bit of yoga. We got a little bit of inspiration as well, and it was a good start for the day, knowing that this team has about a 5.5 hour, 6 hour trip in the rain as they pedal their way to Columbia today. Now, this team started in Topeka yesterday. They made it to Kansas City overnight and then continue on to Columbia tonight. And this part of a coast-to-coast trip, 3,000 miles across the country with different teams taking separate legs of it. Heather Acker is here now. You are the first team, part of the first team on this trip, Jess. And so Heather was the first 243 miles of this. I don't know if you can imagine it, Jess, but Heather, what was 243 miles on a bike like?
It was a lot. It took, recovery. It took a lot to get to be able to do that because I was a novice at the beginning. But every night we were just exhausted, but we got inspiration from, it's just such a good cause that kept us going.
Now, you said you were a novice, and we talked a little bit ago that you are not a professional or even amateur bike rider.
Exactly.
When did you start riding a bike?
For this ride,
to get ready for this
in April. So it started with a lot of core work, a lot of balance, and then I started noticing just getting on the bike, my neck was stiff, shoulders. It didn't feel good. It takes a while for your body to adapt, but finally I got past those aches and pains, and then you really just start to feel that good muscle soreness every day after training. But it's worth it. You have to really follow a strict program.
And you talk about these aches and pains. But it makes it a little bit worth it for what you're doing it for.
It does, and that's what we all remember is what we're doing just pales in comparison to what patients face. So we're more than happy to just dive in and do as much as we can to fundraise. So that's the other huge part of this is the fundraising. So just every day trying to think of creative ways to raise more money for cancer research.
Well, for those who don't know anything about Coast to Coast and this ride and what it's about, is there a way that they can participate and give?
Yes, cancerbikeRide.org is the place to go, and every dollar goes to the V Foundation to support cancer research, and every penny of your money goes to that. They have an endowment, so really every dollar goes to research, and that's what makes it easy for people to give. I found that it wasn't that hard. Once I told people what I was doing, it wasn't that hard for them to donate, because unfortunately everyone can relate. It's impacted everyone's families.
And back to the ride itself, we mentioned you started in Oregon. Where are you from originally?
I'm from New Jersey. Jersey. I grew up, born and bred in New Jersey.
Okay, so what was it like going to the West Coast and the terrain that you saw out there?
It was so different from New Jersey. I actually live in a very hilly, mountainous area. So when the ride first started, I felt the hills of the coastal mountains through Oregon, but then it gets very flat. I'm not used to that in New Jersey. So riding through the middle of Oregon was flat until we hit Mount McKenzie, and that was a 5,000-foot mountain to climb.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that was a challenge.
I can't imagine the beautiful scenery that you saw. That had to help you on your way through.
It was gorgeous. The old growth on the trees and just big, huge trees of Oregon. It was beautiful.
Well, Heather Acker, thank you for your leg of the ride in support of this great Coast to Coast event, and I admire you for every single mile that you made.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today and spreading awareness.
Glad to do it. Thank you, Heather Acker.
Okay.
Well, tell you what, Jess, the team has left. They are on their way to Columbia. We are still here, though, at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium as we wrap up our part of the Coast to Coast coverage, the Ride for Cancer Research. Jess, back to you.
Alan, you've done a phenomenal job covering all these riders and this fun event that happens, and I hope you had a good time out there on your first time, you said.
First time here. And, you know, I was not even aware of this ride existing until learning more about this and us coming out here today. And the admiration for all the riders and the support staff behind them. It's not just the riders making the ride. Of course, there is a big team behind them with all the logistics and all the equipment needed for a ride like this. So it has been a super morning out here for sure.
Oh, good. And you good? You stayed pretty dry. Your hair looks pretty good.
I tell you what, this canopy was a blessing this morning. Whoever came up with that idea, they win the day.
Thanks, Alan. We'll see you back here at the health system, okay?
See you soon.
Off to the East Coast. All right, there they go. So, Dr. Hawkinson, we got some community questions.
Okay.
And I do want to ask one because we get this a lot. Sometimes there's some confusion about when to get the booster, if to get the booster.
Yeah.
Jeannie wants to know, if you didn't get your second booster, should you skip it at this point and just get the third booster?
Yeah, right now the CDC has really made it easy, and it's really just about if you've had that primary series, which again for adults, if you're not immunocompromised, it's going to be those 2 doses. If you've had that primary series, then you just go on and get this new updated booster. If it's more than 2 months out from your original, from that primary series.
Well, I guess we get this question a lot. It means people are wanting to do it right.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Absolutely. And I know it's been confusing because there's been different ages, different vaccines depending on what age you were. So they really did try to simple it down. Obviously, if you are immunosuppressed, you get that 3 doses for that primary series. If you are not immunosuppressed, you have 2 doses for that primary series, and then you just go on to get that booster.
Get the booster. Okay. Charles read something about how at-home COVID tests weren't as accurate when it comes to the Omicron variant. Now, I've had a lot of people I know who have gotten it, said they took the test, felt all the symptoms, and then they go and get a PCR test, and it came up positive, even though the home tests were coming up negative. Does it have anything to do with that variant?
Yeah, I mean, there's a recent study out that did look at that. It was from Europe, and I don't know that we use those tests here, but even before that, there was a very good JAMA, either JAMA Internal Medicine or JAMA Open Network study that really looked at home tests, comparing that to the PCR test. And what they showed was you really had maximal sensitivity, meaning the ability to pick up the infection on the test at about 4 days after that symptom onset, and that was only at about 77%. So there are inaccuracies there. Sometimes it is operator error, getting an adequate sample, but also getting enough. So that is why it has been recommended for quite some time to test on multiple days. So even if it's negative the first day, test on that second day. You know, obviously you can always go get a PCR test as well, but that recommendation to do that serial testing has been out there for some time because of that.
New study in the journal Med reveals breakthrough infections increase immunity to COVID-19. I feel like we've talked about this before. Let's go over it again.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the word breakthrough or the term breakthrough infections is really a misnomer. We know you can still get infected even after infection or after vaccination. So I think, we know that you do get that boost, whether it's that T cell or that B cell and antibody boost from natural infection as well. This study typically was looking at antibody levels. So I think that is understandable, and that's consistent with the bulk of the data we have. It is just one more piece to add to that, but again, it's consistent with what we have seen. The other thing is we really don't know what the correlate of protection of that antibody level is, but this is one more data point to support what we've known in the past as well.
All right, that's going to wrap up our questions. Yeah. Are you looking forward to watching the game this weekend?
Absolutely. It's a big...
At KU.
It's a big college football Saturday.
Yeah. So first things first. Let's watch our KU.
Yes.
KU team first. First things first. Okay, it is Foodie Friday, so we are back in the kitchen with Chef Eric, who's combining peaches, pork, and veggies.
Today we're making our peach pork tenderloin with our 4 veggie roast. We're going to start off by making a marinade for our pork. Roughly have about a 12-ounce piece of pork here. We're going to start with a peach nectar. If peaches are out of season or you're not a big fan of peach, you can always try another stone fruit, like apricot, something that might be in season. So we're also going to add a little teriyaki sauce, a little bit of olive oil, and to kick it off, a little fresh rosemary. What we're going to do is we're going to seal that in a bag. Let that marinate for about 4 hours. You can also let that marinate overnight if you'd like. You just want to roll that around in there, make sure it gets nice and coated really, really well. Go ahead and throw that in the fridge and set that aside. And we'll get back to that a little later. Now for our veggies. Veggies are great for the GI tract. Promotes great GI health. Also helps with that feeling of being full with not overindulging. So today we've got some carrots, fresh green beans, some halved red potatoes, and a little bit of onion. So we're going to mix all these together, and we're going to make a nice little marinade today. So we're going to add a little more of that olive oil. Now we're going to add some fresh garlic. Fresh garlic is tremendous for the health. Plus it adds a lot of great flavor. And a little bit of fresh ginger. Gives it that little bit of that zing to set it all off. We'll stir those really, really well. Now you can cook the pork on the grill at home if you like, summertime, want to get outside for a little bit, or you can cook it in the oven, whichever's easiest. If it's, a little too hot outside, it's always nice to throw it in the oven and walk away. So we're going to pan those veggies up real quick. Now your veggies, you're going to put them in the oven, 425 degrees for about 20 minutes. Now we're going to get back to that marinated pork. It's been sitting there for a good several hours. Let that marinade really, really soak in. Now for the pork today, we're going to cook it in the oven, 325 degrees for about 40 minutes. We want to check to make sure it hits at least 160 so that you know that it's nice and done. And now it's time to get these things roasting. We'll start off by putting the pork in first. 325 for about 40 minutes. Now when your pork's about halfway done, you can go ahead and add your vegetables and slide those right on in and give it about another 20 minutes now. All right, now we're going to go ahead. We're going to take that pork out that's been cooking for quite some time, roughly 40 minutes. Go ahead and pull out our nice vegetables. Now we'll get the pork sliced up and we'll get this plated up and we'll see where we're going. Now that we've taken the pork out of the oven, we're going to check to make sure that it is at least 160 degrees and the juices run clear, and we are good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and get that sliced up. Just want to put a nice little slice so we can make a beautiful little plate presentation out of these. As you can see, we've got a nice, juicy piece of pork right here. And here we have our peachy pork tenderloin with our 4 veggie roast. Now that looks delicious. This could be a new family favorite. Enjoy.
Looks delish. Thank you so much for joining us for our special coverage of the Coast to Coast for Cancer ride. Good luck and safe travel to all of those riders as they head across country. We cheer on the Chiefs as they head to Indianapolis this Sunday. Everyone have a great weekend, and KU.
Right.
Absolutely.
Rock
on
Chalk.
Saturday. Rock Chalk. All right, everyone, have a great day. We'll see you back here Monday.
Coming up Monday
On the Morning Medical Update, tight pants and hot tubs, things some men seem to enjoy. But what impact is it having on their fertility? I'm Jessica Lovell. From food to sleep to the man's brain, we do some Monday medical myth busting for the guys at 8 on these social media channels.
Subscribe to our Morning Medical Update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcast. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.